You just played a game of tug of war, eliminating half the remaining players. Little do you know, the next game will eliminate half the players again, maybe more. This is round 4 of the Squid Game. Hi guys, welcome back or welcome to Dreamworks Switch to Life. And in today's video, well, it's probably going to be the most heartbreaking video in my Dreamworks Squid Game series. Also, this is part 5, so if you haven't seen the first 4 videos or if you just want a refresher, there's a playlist down below in the description. Now, first off, I'm sorry that this video took so long to get out. I know I promised I would release it in March, but, you know, life happens, and even just recently, I've been spending the past week trying to recover from a cold that has messed up my voice. In fact, my voice is probably still messed up, but I figure it's good to go for this video. So without further ado, Death will now introduce the game. Welcome to the 4th game. For this game, you will be playing in teams of 2. Look around and find someone you wish to play with. Shake hands when you find your teammate. So the remaining 80 contestants are required to split into 40 teams of 2. The game will be explained later. I'm not going to go into the teams yet, but I decided the best way for people to partner up is with their best friends, their romantic partners, their family members, stuff like that. After that, it kind of just became the remainder were partnered with their tug of war teammates, and if that didn't work, it was kind of just whoever was left over. Now that I've explained the teams, and now that they've been introduced to the playing areas, thanks to the pinked mask workers, Death will now introduce the game. Please take 1 bag from the staff member before you. Count to make certain there are 10 marbles in each bag. You will play the game of your choice with your partner. The player who manages to take all 10 marbles from their partner will win. Players that don't present 20 marbles in 30 minutes will be eliminated. No violence is allowed. Let the game begin. So this is why the game is heartbreaking. The players are going to be playing marbles, and the problem is they're playing against their partner, which means that players will have to compete with each other, and it's made even worse because if 2 best friends were competing each other, they know that one of them is going to die. So with all that in mind, let's dive into some of the games that they can play with each other. So they can wager how many is in your opponent's hand. Like they could say odd or even and guess how many marbles is in their opponent's hand. And over time, they will lose their marbles to that person or gain that person's marbles. One of the two. And they could also throw marbles towards a target, and whoever hits the target or gets close enough claims all the marbles. Or they can even just trick their opponent into giving them their 10 marbles or even stealing them from under their nose. Again, no violence is allowed. So, of course, I imagine that many of our players will just be having a conversation and spend their 30 minutes trying to decide who should be the one to self-sacrifice so the other can move on to the next game. Because they're best friends, they're family members, they're couples. They don't want to kill each other, but they have to in order for someone to move on. So I imagine quite a few people will try playing the games fair and square, but more teams will probably just be saying goodbye and making strategies for what to do in the next game, even though they don't know what it is. That last one is especially true for loved ones. So here are our couples. Our first team is Moses and Zipporah, both from the Prince of Egypt. Moses would definitely not be willing to move on without his wife. However, while I do imagine that Zipporah would be upset over the fact that she'd be losing access to God's wisdom and his powers, I'm pretty sure that Moses would most likely try to self-sacrifice himself, and Zipporah would allow it because, well, she's kind of the kind of woman who wants people to respect her, and it just makes sense that Moses self-sacrifices so Zipporah could move on. Next, we have Sinbad and Marina. And unfortunately, well, I hate to say this, but Marina actually admitted that she would rather die than be in a world without Sinbad in it, even if that means Sinbad became a good guy. And while Sinbad did have a choice to make in the original movie, here his choice is simple. He can either kill Marina and move on, or he can hurt Marina and ruin her chance at winning the next game. I'm pretty sure that Sinbad would most likely accept Marina's self-sacrifice. Next, we have Alex and Gia from Madagascar. I know this might be a little bit heartbreaking, but I think this will be our first double elimination because, well, I just can't imagine a world where Alex would willingly accept Gia's death in order to move on to the next game. And while I'm sure Gia would be fine moving on without Alex, her problem is that she has a motto: circus sticks together. And if neither of them can move on, I don't think either of them will move on. Next, we have Hiccup and Astrid from How to Train Your Dragon. And I hate to say it, but Hiccup is extremely smart. There is a high chance that he will trick Astrid into letting her take his marbles because Hiccup is not the kind of person who would willingly accept someone to die on his behalf. If anything, he's the self-sacrifice type, and he thinks the world of Astrid. Astrid is an amazing fighter, she's a master strategist, and while she may not be as smart as Hiccup, she's definitely has a better chance of surviving Squid Game than Hiccup does. So Hiccup, with his big brain, would try to figure out some way to trick Astrid into taking his 10 marbles, and that would be the death of Hiccup while Astrid moves on. And if anything, I'm pretty sure that Hiccup's death will just motivate Astrid to do better in the next game. Next, we move on to Jim Lake Jr. and Claire Nunez from Troll Hunters. And, well, like Hiccup, I'm pretty sure that Jim Lake Jr. will most likely try to self-sacrifice. His whole thing is he has to finish the fight alone. That means he's willing to self-sacrifice everything in order to protect his friends. And I think that he would definitely do the same for Claire. And especially because of Claire's shadow magic, that would definitely be a big help in later Squid Game episodes. So with that in mind, next we move to Walter Strickler and Barbara Lake, also from Troll Hunters. And unfortunately, I hate to say this, but Barbara will probably die. Strickler might be a changed man, and he might think the world of Barbara, and while he would definitely want to keep her safe, I'm pretty sure he values his own life too much. And sure, he did self-sacrifice himself to save Jim back in the Rise of the Titans movie, but that was so he could defeat and destroy the Ice Titan controlled by Skrell. However, it didn't work out and his sacrifice was in vain. But at that point, he was willing to die because not only was he saving Jim and Barbara and all of his friends, but he was saving the entire world. And, well, here, he would literally just be saving Barbara, and at this point, I think he might actually be saving her from more pain and hurt, because as we know, the Squid Game progresses, more and more people will die. This is kind of a mercy kill in his eyes, I think. Next, we move on to our final couple, Agatha and Arthur Gilman from Ruby Gilman Teenage Kraken. And, well, this one's actually super easy. I just can't imagine a world where Arthur doesn't step aside to let Agatha take care of business. Next, we also have family members, and surprisingly, all of these are from the Kung Fu Panda franchise. So first we have Po and Mr. Ping, the father-son duo. And I'm pretty sure that Mr. Ping would gladly sacrifice his own life to save Po. And sure, Po might be willing to do the same, but unfortunately, Mr. Ping is way more stubborn and honestly way smarter than Po. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Mr. Ping would self-sacrifice to save his own son, and his only wish would be for, if Po manages to win, to create an entire universe filled with noodles. Our next family is Shifu and Tigress. This is kind of, but not really, a father-daughter duo. And, well, I'm pretty sure that Shifu, as a master, would gladly sacrifice his own life to save Tigress. And unfortunately, I'm pretty sure that Shifu, thanks to his advanced kung fu techniques, would even be able to stand up against Tigress's strength, especially because violence isn't allowed in this game. And because of that, Shifu manages to pass off his 10 marbles to Tigress, and Tigress will most likely move on. Next, we have Tai Lung and Oogway. And, well, Oogway is definitely the kind of guy who is willing to let himself die so that even a villain could move on. And honestly, I'm pretty sure that Oogway's self-sacrifice would also be a part of Tai Lung's redemption arc so that he can learn to be a good person. And with that out of the way, let's move on to the best friends. First off, we have Guy and Belt from the Croods. Now, of course, some people might be willing to say, hey, shouldn't these two die together because, they're like best friends? But honestly, I'm pretty sure that they would both be just trying to play the game fair and square to see who wins. And unfortunately, I'm pretty sure Belt will die because he's just an animal and he has a dumb animal brain. Guy, as a human and a very smart human at that, would probably be able to win the game. So, marbles goes to Guy. Next, we move on to Dawn and Thunk, also from the Croods. And the thing is, Thunk, yeah, he definitely dies here, mostly because I can't imagine him wanting to move on to the next game. Because, well, he hates moving, and if he's not watching the action, he hates the action. Meanwhile, with Dawn, she loves being in the action. So it's highly likely that Thunk would just willingly give up his 10 marbles to Dawn, especially because Dawn would probably be able to trick his dumb mind out of them. Next, we move on to Rat and Jed from Sinbad Legend of the Seven Seas. And honestly, well, I'm pretty sure Rat is more of a schemer than Jed, so Rat would probably be able to take the marbles without any consequence from Jed, and so Jed will die. Next, we have two more pairs from Sinbad Legend of the Seven Seas, Jin and Lee, and Grum and Chum. Jin and Lee are famous for wagering, so that's probably the marble game they're going to play, but they're both so good at it that they can't decide on a winner within the 30 minutes, so both of them will die. Meanwhile, Grum and Chum, I'm pretty sure these two are best buddies who will not leave each other behind, so both Grum and Chum die. Next, we move to Mantis and Monkey from Kung Fu Panda. As we know, the two of these guys are best friends. We're going to look at a couple of episodes from Legends of Awesomeness to see just what kind of people that these two are. So, in the episode Monkey in the Middle, we see Monkey willing to go to prison for a crime he didn't commit in order to save the reputation of his brother, who he absolutely hates. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's the kind of guy you definitely want to have behind your back. Meanwhile, with Mantis, in the episode The Maltese Mantis, we see Poe trying to help him pretend to be the Dragon Warrior, and it keeps costing Poe multiple injuries. And all Mantis says is, can you just pretend to be this bumbling buffoon for one more day? And, well, it just keeps costing him more and more injuries, and Mantis is just taking advantage of Poe's offer for help. With Monkey, again, he's the kind of guy who's willing to go to prison for a crime he didn't commit. Mantis is the guy who takes advantage of you even when it puts you in serious danger. So because of that, Mantis moves on because Monkey is willing to stay behind. Next, we move to Susan Murphy, aka Ginormica, and Dr. Herbert Cockroach from Monsters vs. Aliens. And honestly, there's a point for both of these guys to be able to move on. See, well, both of them would probably try to work together to see who would be more likely to win. I'm pretty sure that Ginormica would be the winner overall. Sure, Dr. Herbert Cockroach is definitely the smartest member of the team, and he's pretty much indestructible because, cockroaches are super hard to kill. But with Ginormica, she has a lot more when it comes to social smarts, meaning she can probably take advantage of the other players when it comes to future games, and she can also grow and shrink herself to human and gigantic size. Combine that with the fact that Dr. Cockroach thinks that Susan would probably be a formidable opponent, I'm pretty sure that he would be willing to self-sacrifice if it meant Ginormica would move on. Next, we move on to Gobber and Ruffnut from the How to Train Your Dragon movies. And, well, Gobber is a very nice guy. Sure, he's big and he's definitely a warrior, but he also cares about the friends he has. Ruffnut, I can't say the same thing. So I'm pretty sure Ruffnut will gladly take advantage of Gobber and eventually take all 20 marbles. So Gobber dies here. Next, we have Valka and Eret, son of Eret. And I'm pretty sure that Eret, being a former bounty hunter, would most likely be able to trick Valka out of her marbles because he's a con man. That just makes sense. And Valka, she's not really that great when it comes to social because she spent 20 years in isolation. So because of that, Valka will most likely die. Next, we move on to Megamind and Keiko Morita from Megamind. I know some of you might be saying, why didn't I partner Megamind with Roxanne Ritchie? But we'll get to that later. So, Keiko Morita and Megamind are two superheroes who would work together. Unfortunately, they're fighting each other at this point, and I simply hate to say this, but I just don't think that Megamind has redeemed himself enough to the point where he would be willing to die if it meant Keiko was moving on. He wouldn't even die if it meant Minion could move on. The only person he would really die for is Roxanne. And, well, if he's going up against Keiko, he is going to use his Megamind to take advantage of her, and that's not going to be good for his reputation, but at least he gets to move on to the next round. Next, we move on to Roxanne Ritchie, who would partner up with her assistant, Christina Cristo. And the reason is because nobody else would partner up with Christina. So that's why she didn't partner with Megamind. So Roxanne and Christina would be playing together, and while I'm pretty sure that Christina would try to win in order to survive, Roxanne, thanks to her time with Megamind, would be able to use a bit more cunning and come out on top. Next, we move on to Mr. Peabody and Leonardo da Vinci. I'm pretty sure that while they're not best friends, the two of them are very close time friends, so they would partner up with each other. Now, when it comes to who wins, it's Mr. Peabody, no questions asked. Not only is he the smarter, more agile, more cunning of the two, he knows how to play more modern day games than Leonardo, which just makes sense. And unfortunately, Mr. Peabody actually has a reason to be in the game. See, the reward for the game is that the winner will be able to create an entire universe any way they see fit. And it even includes rescuing the people who have died. And because of that, Mr. Peabody would gladly be willing to try to kill Leonardo da Vinci if it meant he could save his boy Sherman, who died earlier in the previous games. So with that in mind, we move to the next team, which is Blinkus, Galadriel, and Nari from Troll Hunters. And I'm pretty sure that Nari would be willing to self-sacrifice here because it would mean she would return to the earth, as all things do. Blinky, yeah, he's a bit of a scaredy cat, so I'm pretty sure with his vast knowledge, he would gladly try to take advantage of Nari's self-sacrifice. Next, we move on to Krell and Eli. The two of these guys would probably try to play a normal game, but, Krell is, vastly smarter than Eli Pepperjack, so unfortunately, Eli is going to die here, while Krell moves on to the next round. Next, we have Joseph and Potiphar from Joseph, King of Dreams. And while the two of them aren't really best friends, they're pretty close friends. And as we know, Potiphar is willing to trust Joseph with his life. And because of that, that means that Potiphar would most likely self-sacrifice so Joseph can move on. Next, we have from Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron, the Colonel and Sergeant Adams. And, well, I'm pretty sure that while both of them would try to win, the Colonel is vastly smarter and definitely able to read more into how a character moves and what's their breaking point. And so Sergeant Adams will most likely die while the Colonel will move on. And the final best friends that we have to talk about is Police Constable McIntosh and PC Mukherjee from the Wallace and Gromit franchise. Out of the two of them, I'm pretty sure that McIntosh would be the one to self-sacrifice because if a police officer has to be involved, he thinks it should be her because, well, at the end of Vengeance Most Foul, he saw that Mukherjee had a better copper's gut than he did and is willing to trust her instincts. So because of that, McIntosh decides to self-sacrifice so Mukherjee can move on. And finally, we have the leftover teams. Most of these guys partnered just because they worked together in the tug of war in the previous game. So right now we have Proteus and Zekokon. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's obvious who is going to move on in this game. Zekokon has no intention of dying anytime soon, and we all know that Proteus was willing to die if it meant Sinbad's reputation was saved. Next, we have Gloria from Madagascar partnered with RJ from Over the Hedge. And, well, unfortunately, I know there are a lot of people who love Gloria, but RJ is going to be the one who wins this. And the reason, the two of them aren't that close. They don't really have any reason to self-sacrifice for each other. So it's likely they would just play the game normally. And I know some of you might be saying Gloria could easily squash RJ and take his marbles, but again, no violence is allowed. So because of that, they just play the game, and RJ, thanks to his cunning manipulation, would most likely overpower Gloria, and thus RJ would move on while Gloria dies. Next, we have Kowalski and Classified from the Penguins of Madagascar movie. Again, not really friends, but they do know how to work together. Unfortunately, they have to work against each other, and well, at this point, Kowalski has lost pretty much all the members of his family, while Classified has lost the members of his team. I don't think that Classified is as emotional as Kowalski is, and while Kowalski might be a bit smarter, his smarts comes from data and analysis. Emotions don't really play into it. Classified is a spy. He knows how to read emotions. So with that in mind, he also knows how to take advantage of people. And I'm pretty sure that Classified will be the one who manages to win in the game that Kowalski would be playing. So Classified moves on, Kowalski dies. Next, we have Stuart from Troll Hunters, or maybe Tales of Arcadia in general, and Kim Lee from Turbo. And, well, Stuart's the kind of guy who wouldn't really be willing to self-sacrifice, but there is no way he's standing up to that crazy old lady. So, Kim Lee moves on, Stuart, not so much. Next, we have Miss Tarantula from The Bad Guys and LaFrog from Flushed Away. And, well, even though they're both bad guys and con men, I'm pretty sure LaFrog would definitely be the one to take advantage of Miss Tarantula because Miss Tarantula is trying to be good. And, well, that's going to interfere with LaFrog, who is pretty much evil and willing to do whatever it takes to get his next paycheck and survive, as well as, support his family. But unfortunately, he's the only person left in Flushed Away here, so he is going to definitely take advantage of Miss Tarantula, and, well, she dies, LaFrog moves on. Next, we have Rosm Unit 7134 and Vontra, both from the Wilds Robot. This is kind of an uneasy alliance because Vontra wants to keep track of where Roz is at all times so that she can take Roz to Universal Dynamics. That's her main directive. Now, feel free to argue with me in the comments, but since one of them is going to die, that means that if Roz dies, her memories will be lost and thus can't be delivered to Universal Dynamics. So Vontra would be the one to self-sacrifice herself just so Roz could fulfill her mission. And, well, I don't think that's how it's going to work out in the end, but that is going to be how Vontra's programming works. Meanwhile, with Roz, she changed her programming, and while she can't willingly take a life, that doesn't mean she isn't going to just stand by and let her tormentor die for her sake. Add that to the fact that, unlike Vontra, Roz actually knows how to read emotions because she spent so much time living among animals and their behaviors. So even if Vontra wasn't willing to self-sacrifice herself, neither of them would be willing to self-sacrifice. Because of that, they would just play the game normally because that was the instructions at the start. That's their directive now. So they just play the game normally, and Roz, knowing how to read emotions and behaviors, would definitely be able to protect Vontra, who, again, is just a robot who spent no time trying to study or hide her emotions. So with that in mind, Vontra will die, Rosm wins, no matter what happens. Now we have Master Croc and Jen from Kung Fu Panda. The two have really never met each other, so there's really no point in Jen trying to hold back. She is definitely going to try to use her con skills to take advantage of Master Croc, who, being the good Kung Fu guy that he is, would most likely die due to Jen taking advantage of him. And, well, with her tail, we know that she can hide a ton of things in her tail, and it's highly likely that she could just sweep her tail and grab his marbles from him. So, Yeah, Zhen moves on, Master Croc dies. Speaking of Kung Fu Panda, we also have the Wolf Boss and the Chameleon. Again, two characters who have never met each other, but they're kind of both villains, so it made sense, and they work together back in Tug of War. Now, when it comes to who lives and who dies, we know Wolf Boss is kind of loyal to a fault when it comes to his team. He will never do friendly fire. He will never willingly kill his own teammate. Meanwhile, the Chameleon has absolutely no problems. Combine that with the fact that she's cunning, smart, manipulative, and the fact she can shapeshift. Yeah, she's definitely going to be pulling some tricks, and she'll come out on top. The Wolf Boss dies. Next, we have Han from Kung Fu Panda and General W.R. Monger from Monsters vs. Aliens. So the two of them have never really met each other until working together in Tug of War, and because of that, they will not really know a lot about each other. So Han would definitely be willing to trick Monger and maybe even try to cause a bit of violence. But as we know, violence is not allowed in this game. So it's up to old con artist and trickery. However, General Monger is in charge of a military base. He knows how to handle criminals, especially anthropomorphic ones, because he's handling monster breakouts on the daily, and he's still able to keep them in prison for 50 years. So because of that, I'm pretty sure that Monger would be able to read Han like an open book, at which point when they play a game of marbles, Monger would win. Now we have a very weird partnership. Mona Lisa from Mr. Peabody and Sherman, and the Butler from Joseph King of Dreams. Now, if you were to ask me, I'm pretty sure that the Mona Lisa would win, just because the Butler, he's kind of submissive, and he definitely is a bit of a nervous ticker, and because of that, Mona Lisa would probably be able to take advantage of him, because we know she is not willing to hold back. Next, we have Little Creek and Murphy from Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron, and I know the two of them are kind of enemies, but they played together in Tug of War, and I don't know, it just made sense that these two would partner in my head just because they were left over. Now we have to talk about who lives and who dies. Little Creek being a naturist and probably someone who plays a lot of games with his fellow Native Americans would probably be able to outmaneuver Murphy when it comes to playing marbles. And Murphy is a blacksmith. All he does is pound metal all day. I'm pretty sure he would not be able to accurately throw a marble to a target compared to Little Creek. So because of that, Little Creek manages to move on. Murphy is left behind in the dust. Next, we have Music Man, also known as Metro Man, from Megamind, and Ruby Gilman. So the two of them would just partner up because they were on the same team. And, well, I thought long and hard about it, and I can't imagine a universe where either of them are willing to self-sacrifice. Sure, Music Man or Metro Man might be a superhero who's supposed to save lives, but he's a bit selfish, and I'm pretty sure he would definitely try to kill a teenager if it meant his own survival. But Ruby Gilman is a mathematician. So who is the one who dies among the two? I'm pretty sure it's going to be Ruby Gilman because she knows how to lie, she knows how to manipulate, she can read the data, so she might be able to win in a game of marbles, but before she can present her earnings, Music Man would definitely go at super speed and replace her marbles with a bag of rocks, at which point he would take her winnings and present them and say he won the marbles game, and because it was a non-violent steal, I'm pretty sure Music Man would be able to move on while Ruby Gilman is left behind. Yeah, I know, he's a real jerk, isn't he? Next, we move on to our final team because it is the most complicated, and there's also another reason I saved it for last. And that, of course, is the love couple of Mr. Wolf and Diane Foxington from The Bad Guys. Now, Mr. Wolf is manipulative enough to trick Diane out of her marbles, but there are two things that are stopping him. First, Wolf is trying to be a good guy, a hero, and good guys do not let someone else die for them. Number two, he loves and respects Diane and considers her skills superior to his own. So if anyone can win Squid Game, it's her. Now, whether he's actually willing to bet his life on her, I'm not sure. I guess we'll have to wait till the sequel comes out on August 1st to find out. But I decided to kill him for another reason. So after Diane presents her 20 marbles to the pink mask worker, they will try to kill Mr. Wolf, but he is not going to go down without a fight. He'll try to run, and he knows a lot about guns more than most people who are on this list. So even if it's a suicide, he will probably try to attack the pink mask and kill whoever is underneath. But during the fight, the mask will fall off to reveal Mr. Snake. What? Mind blown. Okay, so if you don't know, Mr. Snake died back during the Honeycomb Challenge in round 2. But, well, he's back for some strange reason, and he's one of the pink mask workers. But something is off with him. He looks into Wolf's eyes and pulls the trigger and kills his best friend with no hesitation or remorse. Eesh, now that's truly evil. But that just tells you something, doesn't it? With that, our player count has gone from 520 at the start of the competition to a mere 37 remaining. And we still have 2 games left. So now it's time to talk about the Game Master. To recap, he is not from a Dreamworks movie or a TV show, but he is from a book series that got turned into a Dreamworks property. He is the god of the multiverse, traveling across space and time to gather all of our characters and force them to compete in a series of games where he can kill them for his own sadistic pleasure. Then, as we have just learned, he can bring the dead contestants back to life and force them to be his evil puppets with his dark influence. So, who do you guys think it is? Make sure to leave your thoughts down below in the comment section, and also if I should make rounds 5 and 6 into one video or 2. But with that in mind, please consider joining my membership program and to support the channel, or if you want, you can just do the free option and subscribe. Speaking of, let's see if we can get this channel to 1,000 subscribers before I make the final video of the Squid Game series. But above all else, make sure that you're staying safe out there, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye-bye.
Mantis, it is me, you bestie!